Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good afternoon. So, our topic is we're continuing with the theme of AI and how is the banking industry looking at AI globally and then in Pakistan. Thank you, Nassir Saab. Thank you, Hamayun. Thank you, Haaris Saab. So, we've got a bank, a digital bank, and a fintech here, and that's the reason we wanted to get three views from this. I'm going to start with a phrase, and then you guys can guess where it came from. With great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man. So that's good. So AI is all about that great power and then bringing that great responsibility and seeing how things go. Asif Peer this morning, if you heard him, showed a lot of stats about banking, what's happening in the financial sector, and what's happening in AI in the financial sector. I'm going to talk about a few things, and then I'll open up with a few questions and comments to this esteemed panel. Banks are very bullish about AI right now. And the reason they are is they are working towards a lot of efficiency and optimization from a business process and business perspective. There are a lot of low hanging fruits in AI that are opportunities in the area of customer services, risk assessments, fraud, in terms of sales, marketing, that the banks, just not in Pakistan, but globally are adopting. But then there are some challenges as well. As I said, with great power comes great responsibility, data being a big challenge, talent being a big challenge, security being a big challenge. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into this discussion and not just paint a picture which is saying AI is for everyone, but how do we benefit from AI for these banks? And how do we bring innovation, not just AI and generative AI, which we know is happening? So, Nassir Saab, I'm going to start with you. And I'm going to ask for a few opening comments from you, a couple of them, before I ask questions. And then I'm going to go to you, Hamayun and Haaris. Just give a view about how you're seeing AI and what are you seeing in your banks happening. So I'll start with you and over to you. And then there's some key questions that the audience and I would like to go through and take your perspective.
So as Asif, introduced the subject, this is certainly a big interest for the banking sector and particularly for HBL, so much so that about 6 years ago, we changed our motto to we're not a bank, but we're a technology company with a banking license. So making a statement actually doesn't change the DNA. And I'd like to share, some of the key elements that allow you to make that change. And the first thing, as Asif said, is, AI is not something that we've invented here. AI is a global phenomena. And what does it mean? It means that the value of partnerships is exceedingly important. At HBL, recognizing this importance, we've partnered with freelancers, we've partnered with the fintechs, we've partnered with Pasha. In fact, we have a strategic alliance with Pasha, and we actually work as a enabler in the dialogues between the regulators, the software houses, and we create a better level of awareness. So I think as part of that, you gain enough knowledge around what is happening in the tech space, be it around bots, be it around AI, generative AI, or be it now where they talk about autonomous AIs, right? And the world coming to an end, right? So there's a difference between AI and now what they're talking about internationally in terms of autonomous AIs as well. Self-driving cars, they're basically autonomous cars. There's an algo and they run by themselves. So I think the world is changing rapidly, and banking typically has been slow to change. There are a lot of values that we can get. So specifically, we've done AI-enabled chats, and we've started prototyping that more for our employees. HR typically gets inundated with a lot of questions, which can simply be answered by a chatbot, right? So that's an immediate use. The second thing is when you look at card authorizations, there are card authorizations that go manual. There are card authorizations, that require or they meet certain fraud patterns. So you look at people sitting in the authorization room or the fraud room in any bank, and they are 24 by 7 looking at the authorizations coming through, picking for patterns. That's where, if you have algorithms playing, we have a lot of tools, both supplied by the associations as well as our own homegrown tools, that allow us to immediately flag this. The last piece is about acquisition and customer experience. About 3 years ago, we started piloting personal installment loans, which were basically instantly dispersed to customers. So we now acquire about 44% of all our personal installment loans off the mobile app. The funding takes place in a matter of minutes. The rest of the work, it can be only done 24 by 7 if you really have technology, if you have bots at the background that actually go do the credit bureau check, get the assessment done, and you have a front-end scoring model, that looks at the various attributes of that customer and allows for an instant credit to be made. For the ones that get rejected, then those go into a manual review where then people can call up if there's additional documentation required or information, we take that. But in a place like Pakistan, getting 44% of all personal installment loans for a leading bank in Pakistan, I think is a relatively decent achievement. And we similarly have done the same for an approval in principle. Obviously, we can't give a car through the mobile app, but we can approve a customer right there, and then the rest of the process works through. And similarly, we're looking at other use cases on it. So really, the way to do this, Asif, is there are many things that you can do. Back office, you can transform your entire back office. These are people, that can work, these bots, and if they're AI enabled, they work 24 by 7 by 365.
Great.
So I think that's just as an intro, the potential, and I'll hand it over to
brilliant.
Asif.
I think that's a great intro. You touched upon partnerships, you touched upon adoptions, you touched upon what HBL is doing, and I think this is a great intro. HBL as a bank on this journey of innovation, not just AI, is huge. So Hamayun, I'm going to move to you next with a smile because you are the digital bank. Last time we were here, you were also digital, but now you're the whole digital bank. So I like a perspective from that because you're born AI and born digital. That's what, we say born on the cloud. This is born on digital, let's say. And get your view on how Mashreq is seeing this, not just globally, but what in Pakistan and the journey you're in with the innovation and AI. So if you could give some opening comments on that, and we can then dive into it.
Yeah, thank you, Asif. And thank you, Asif, again for inviting. There are two, I find them interesting examples that I want to share. Last year, City Tech launched an agent, which is an AI agent.
Yeah.
And it is CFA level 1 qualified. It is estimated that a typical CFA takes 10,000 hours of effort, and the paper of level 1 takes 8 hours. And the AI agent did the same in 30 minutes. Citi made this example to demonstrate that their AI agent is compliant and equally capable to make us, make a statement globally that Citi is also going to make use of artificial intelligence in a different way. The other example that I want to share is, and I'm sure it is very close to your and Asif's heart as well, a typical developer takes 18 months to learn the way documentation of an enterprise for the piece of software that they write. And it is an ongoing struggle. I used to be a developer myself for close to 10 years. And I can understand that this asking software developers to write piece of code. Look, as an enterprise, and Nassir also alluded to the same, all of us today have to be software-first enterprises to drive the kind of industry and businesses we are. Now, the benefit of generative AI today, with the help of Copilot as a technology, it allows you to create the documentation. And let me not stop here that, oh, by the way, you throw a piece of code and it creates documentation. It goes much beyond when you have several different application software codes and you trying to create a business solution out of it by integrating. And it all boils down to the one developer who's writing a module of that business solution.
Absolutely.
And that developer should have the opportunity of saying, this is the logic I'm writing. Can you tell me if something similar was ever written in this enterprise? Imagine Microsoft, like 30-year-old. And if I can reuse that, or should I make a module from scratch?
Yeah.
Imagine the man hours of productivity and efficiency that you can bring in just by getting your documentation straight.
Absolutely.
So at Mashreq, we have more than 750 software developers and an enterprise of close to 5,000 people globally. And at Mashreq Bank, Pakistan, 60% of my workforce, again, thanks to System Limited, is software developers. So the first focus for us is to make sure that we get the fundamentals and governance around AI correct.
Yeah.
Because this is here to stay for a very long time. And in terms of applications of AI, there are plethora of applications that we've been, and I'm sure other banks and industry have been using in terms of capitalizing on AI for last 10 years. The only one application that I want to share example of is our chatbot, which is based on a technology company called Core.ai. They are known for creating a chatbot which is very contextualized for normal human conversations. And its intent recognition is even powerful than the one that Google has developed.
Excellent.
And our experience from UAE and some of the other markets are 63% of customer service is now dealt with AI today. But anyways, I'll stop here and happy to answer.
Yeah, very good. I think you touched upon three different things. One is the power of AI, which we know is huge, and the amount of work that can be done in quicker time. I think the second thing you talked about is also the governance and how do we make that happen. And the third thing is the adoption, that in UAE you have got that adoption. How do we do that? So they're great opening comments, and I can see a lot of similarities from what HPL and you were saying. So now, Haaris, over to you. From a MMBL perspective and also coming from more of a fintech kind of thing perspective, how do you see that, the view of AI and adoption and challenges that you've got? Just some opening comments and then we dwell into deep.
Thank you, Asif.
Thank you.
So AI is not a buzzword anymore. It has transformed the financial landscape, not in Pakistan, all over the world. But actually, it's going to be very critical in bringing the financial inclusion to unserved and underbanked and people who do not have access to finance. We at Mobilink Bank, through our Jazz Cash, we've got the largest customer base, which is approximately 47 million customers. And through AI, we disperse 200,000 nano loans per day. And it cannot happen without the help and support of AI. Approximately 7 million transactions take place on daily basis. 50% of the Rast Pakistan is being routed through Mobilink Bank, through Jazz Cash. And out of which 7% of Pakistan GDP is done through this. So when we talk about those kind of numbers, I'm like, there's no way that you cannot engage or do not use AI. And as a microfinance bank, we're a little behind what where it should be. But as a fintech, as being partnered with Jazz Cash, we are ahead with a lot of things. But still, a lot of things needs to be done. We've talked about the operational efficiency, but I think the important thing is that we also discuss how we handle the frauds detection through AI, because the number of transactions which we deal can only be handled through AI. So at this point of time, we are doing various models, and especially the data which we have, it has to be structured through AI. So this is what we are doing, and along with that, I think as you said, it comes with power comes with responsibility that we have to build that trust and innovation because of a lot of challenges come through data privacy, and that is the trust which we need to build with the regulators and the customers on that.
Excellent. I think, thank you for that whole angle about fintech, the number of transactions, the number of loans you're processing, a lot is required. So now I'm going to dwell into 3 areas, and let's go into the first area, which is more around the culture of the organization. How do you think, and Nassir, I'll start with you, and Hamayun, you can add on, and Haaris, you can add on to that as well, is the culture aspect of adoption of AI, not just for employees, but also for customers, important in HBL in Pakistan? That's the context that I'm building. And how are you managing that change?
And from my perspective, one can't understate the value of culture. Culture in any transformation program is the key to making things stick. Otherwise, what we call an episodic event, you focus on it, you drive it top down, it gets traction, and then, once you take your eye off the ball, everybody goes back to what they were doing before. So how do you transform culture? I think there's a couple of things. One is communication. So communicate. You cannot under-communicate this. That's one. The second is you have to take a realistic look at upskilling and reskilling of the people that you have. I mean, HBL has 16,000 people, pan-Pakistan, we're a leading bank. Bringing that change is a tough activity. Now, as part of our onboarding, we look at attributes, regardless of whether it is technology or operations or any other area. There is an assessment for a certain grade and above where we look at this person's digital readiness. If they don't have the digital readiness, they're at a disadvantage to somebody that does. So you really have to do a program, that looks at that life cycle and takes that forward. The second that you need to calm people down is that people are going to lose their jobs, because technology is going to come in. So the mindset is, if I don't share with this person who's coming to automate this activity, my job is going to be continued to be safe. So when we did automation in the back office, in the compliance, we had to reassure people, there is in Pakistan a natural attrition rate of around 10-15%, depending on the institution you're working for. So nobody's jobs are going away. This is getting implemented. It is going to make life easier. It will free up time for you to do higher value things, which is interfacing with customers, which is doing other things versus simply, pressing a button, looking at one screen and cut pasting something onto another screen. So it takes away all of that and allows you to grow and focus, because in the future, the jobs that we require are going to be data analysts, data scientists, coders, programmers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, I think, is in the culture. It really has to be a full-fledged part of your technology transformation agenda. Without that, it's simply not going to stick.
Great. So you touched upon these things. How do you ensure that your employee is digital enabled? How do you reskill them, retrain them? And that's a huge transformation that HBL is going through. Great. So for you, it's a little bit different around. So that this is the same culture question, but it's not just you have a different problem. You may have over culture the digital thing, and it may become a problem sometimes because everybody is trying to solve the problems through tech versus process versus all of that. So how are you dealing with that? And tell us about the organization that you're building in Mashreq, Pakistan. How are you enabling it to be innovative, but yet again realistic, so that you can get the optimum result? So while Habib Bank has a different problem, Mashreq would come from a little bit other side.
Yeah, I'll answer this in. So there are 4 things that I want to talk about, but I'll do this in combination of 2. The first thing is when ChatGPT and OpenAI became visible and prominent, most of us tried, but it's like COVID. If you have it, you still say, "Oh, by the way, I have a sore throat."
Yeah.
So ChatGPT, we were using and we were making use of that content for writing emails or making presentations or documents, but we were still in denial because it was a shame considered, almost a year ago that, oh, by the way, he's not using his intellect, he's getting a copy paste from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So the first thing among the 4 for us was to make sure that we get rid of this fear among employees that this is something that everyone must and will be using, and we should not shy away from. In fact, we should come up with examples where we are taking support and adding a lot of value that only humans can add. And I'll talk about synthetic data in a little bit. The second piece was, as an enterprise, and I'll rope in Mashreq, Mashreq Group, was to make sure that we build awareness to have a common understanding across Mashreq in different countries, starting with head office, so that this common understanding can then be reflected in our day-to-day work, because everybody has their own definition of, oh, by the way, this is what AI and this is, so that common awareness and definition was important. Again, a subtle way of creating the culture. The third piece, as an enterprise, what is our strategy so that the staff, the broader organization can then feel comfortable that we are not left behind.
Absolutely.
We are actually front runner.
Yeah.
And that's where we built strategy. We are primarily a Microsoft shop. Most of us are, by the way. So we worked very closely with Microsoft to create a strategy of how Mashreq will be driving the artificial intelligence and its adoption internally as well as for customers. The last piece that I want to talk about is there are benefits as well as there are pitfalls around AI, and we are taking a gradual approach of how do we embed into day-to-day way of working, and that's where everything that we today as an enterprise do is supported by Microsoft Copilot, where our meeting minutes are written by AI, our conversations on Microsoft Teams are supported by AI, our emails are supported by Copilot, where it says, oh, by the way, I've read the entire email, this is a better way of communicating. The benefit that we are now seeing of this subtle infusion of AI, I'm sure all of you can relate that there are fights that we had in our corporate lives when reading an email resulted into a different impression, while the one who wrote that email didn't mean that. And that humility and context is now coming because of use of AI in those subtle things. Again, I'll stop here and happy to
No,
share
no.
more details.
I think you raised some very good points. Is that how are you integrating your technology and your culture together, where you are actually encouraging people not just to be digitally enabled, but then take the support of these technologies out there to enhance performance and bring more productivity in. So great feedback. Haaris, coming to you, you talked about fintech and how Jazz Cash has already embraced a lot of it. Tell us a little bit about the microfinance bank on that side. How is that culture evolving? Because Jazz Cash would have a lot of those things ingrained in that. And what are we doing about how does that do the digital adoption and innovation on AI?
Yeah. Um, you know, when we talk about culture and whenever there's a change in a culture, it takes time. And it has to be from the top in terms of part of the strategy. And it has to be clearly communicated to each and everyone who is going to be implementing and who will be affected by that. So when you talk about Mobilink Bank, so we're in a very unique position. So at one side, we've got a very AI using fintech like JazzCash, doing a lot of things through AI. And then we've got a core banking, which is a typical microfinance bank, shy away from these. And there are a couple of reasons for it is that there's a skill gap. And the second is the number of customers they deal with them. So the customers of microfinance banks still wants to deal with a relationship officer in a bank. They get more comfortable while going to him, either taking loan or even giving the loan back. Either the loan is being given to them. What we are trying to do